Good morning. Welcome to our very last set of notes for this section. Then you'll be all done with polynomial division. It's an exciting time. Okay, so as always, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to show you some ways that the polynomial division gets applied in the real world. So to some word problems. Okay. One of the ways is going to be in problems such as this. Sorry, this isn't working out right. There we go. Okay. Where what you're given is a rectangular prism. You're given two dimensions. So this dimension, and then you don't know this one, you have to find it. You are given the volume. Okay, which I know is a little hard to see on this right now, but you'll be given the volume. Okay, now the idea is to find the volume of a rectangular prism is you take all three sides and you multiply them together, right? So you know that this side times this side times this side has to equal this volume. And so that's what we're going to do first. Okay, we've got the volume is length times width times height. So instead of the dimensions, the sides being 1, 2, 3 or something like that, they're the expressions, x plus 6 or x minus 1. Okay, so these are my sides. They gave me the x plus 1 or x plus 6, and they gave me the x minus 1. This is the one we had to find out, and this is the volume they gave us. Okay, now what that means is that this expression can be divided by either one of these because these are factors of this. All right, so that's how we're going to start our problem. We're going to take this volume and we're going to divide it by one of these. You get to pick which one you want to divide by. I am going to take the volume and divide it by the x minus 1. So this is where I'm going to use my synthetic division. Okay, remember opposite sign of this and then the coefficients. Okay, so I bring down the 1. Hello. And then 1 times 1 is 1. 13 plus 1 is 14. 1 times 14 is 14. 34 and 14 is 48. And then 1 times 48 is 48, which gives me 0. Okay, because we're dividing by a factor, this should still always be 0. Now we're going to do the exact same things that we did before now. We're going to write down our factors. So I divided by this, that's one factor. This is my other factor. Now I have to take this and I have to factor it completely. Now what I do know is that x minus 1 is one side. I've already got that here. X plus 6 is another side. That means that this can be broken down into x plus 6 times something else. Okay? Because that's the side I divided by. This is the one I know has to appear in the answer. And then that leaves me with this. This is a plus sign, so both signs are plus. So now all I'm looking for is what times 6 gives me 48. And that's 8. So that missing dimension, the one we don't know, is x plus 8. I know it might be a little bit confusing, but you're doing the same steps. Okay? So they give you volume, they give you two sides, you have to find the third side. Take the volume, divide it by one of these sides, and then do the steps you've been doing. Divide, factor, completely factor. One of the factors that doesn't match up here is the answer you're looking for. Okay. Now most people aren't usually running around trying to find sidestep prisms. But in money, in the financial world, a lot of quadratics and polynomials and things show up. Okay? So what we've got here is we've got the profit P in millions of dollars for a shoe manufacturer can be modeled by P equals negative 21x cubed plus 46x, where x is the number of shoes produced in millions. The company now produces 1 million shoes and makes a profit of $25 million. but would like to cut back production. What lesser number of shoes could the company produce and still make the same profit? Okay, so remember that profit always works in that parabola form. Okay, so over here, as you raise the price, you can keep selling more and more and more. At some point, the price is going to get as high as it'll go, as what people are willing to pay. After that, if you raise the price, then it starts going down what you sold. Okay, so we're saying that the number that you make works the same way. Okay, so I can make 1,000,000 shoes over here and make so much profit, and over here I can make the same profit, but have to do it on a different, but by making a different amount. Okay, I know that probably didn't make sense. Just go with it. Okay, there's going to be a way that we're going to do this. All right. So first of all, because it says in millions of dollars, that means we get to use everything as just numbers. So this 25 million is actually just 25. When it says they produce 1 million, we're just going to use the 1. Now there's a way that we're going to do this. You're always going to take this profit equation that they give you, and you're going to plug in the profit, which is the 25 million. So remember, instead of plugging in 25 with all those zeros, we're only going to plug in 25. Okay? So I'm taking this equation and I'm plugging the 25 in. It's always where you start. Always plug in the profit first. Now, we need this to be in standard form. That means we need everything on one side and we need it equal to 0. Now, our leading coefficient is negative. We don't want that to be negative, so I'm going to move everything from this side over here so that it becomes positive. Okay, so now I have standard form equal to 0. Now, this is the equation that I'm going to take, and I'm going to divide it. I'm going to divide it always by how many that they're making right now. So if this said they were making 4 million shoes, I would take this and divide it by 4. Okay? So on the next slide, I'm taking that equation I found, and I'm going to divide it by how many shoes we were making. Okay, so now I'm just going to do my synthetic division. Okay, again, because we know this is a factor, it has to end up with a 0 here. So we're going to do the same steps that we did before. We're going to write down our factors. So if we got 1, that means it had to start as x minus 1. And then this becomes 21x squared plus 21x minus 25. Now, most of the problems you're going to do, the ones on the homework and the ones on the quiz, you will actually be able to factor them down. And then you're going to do the same thing that you did before. Okay, you're going to factor them down, make your mini equations, find what your zeros are. In this case, for some reason in these examples, this doesn't factor. We still have to find an answer though. So the other ways to factor are by completing the square or doing the quadratic formula. So we're going to do the quadratic formula. Okay, so I'm doing the quadratic formula with this. So this is my B, my A, my C. So I've got those plugged in. Remember, start under here. So I got 441 plus 2100. Now this is real world, so you're going to actually put the square root of 2541 in the calculator and you're going to get a decimal. Now remember, you have two problems here. You have negative 21 plus 50.4, it equals divided by 42, and negative 21 minus 50.4, it equals divided by 42. Okay, I'm not going to use the negative answer though because you can't make a negative amount of shoes. So my other 0 is 0.7. Notice it's smaller than the 1. It has to be smaller because that's what we're looking for. They want to make less but still make the same amount of money. Now this is 0.7 million. So you have to take the 0.7, multiply it by 1,000,000 to tell you how many shoes they're going to make. So instead of making 1 million shoes, they're going to make 700,000 shoes, but still be able to make the $25 million profit. Okay, let's go through this again. Okay, so this says, how does the answer change if the profit for the shoe manufacturer is modeled by P equals negative 15x cubed plus 40x? Okay, nothing else has changed, only this has changed. So they're manufacturing 1 million shoes. Remember, that's what you divide by. And they're still making the $25 million profit. And the profit is what gets plugged in here. So we started by plugging in the 25 million. Remember, get to drop all the zeros because everything represents millions. So that's our first thing. Plug in your profit. Now, get it set equal to 0. Make sure your leading coefficient is positive. So we moved this from to here instead of moving the 25 over there. So now I'm going to take this equation, I'm going to divide it by how many they're making. We're dividing it by the 1 million they're making. Okay, do our synthetic substitution or division. Make sure it's got to be 0. Come up with our two factors. The idea is to then, the x minus 1 comes from here. This comes from these answers. We want to see if we can factor this. This one does not factor, so we're going to do quadratic formula again. And I get 0.88. Now remember, that's not, I'm going to make 0.88 shoes. I mean, how do you make 0.88 of a shoe? You have to take that and multiply that by how many they're making. They're, you know, in increments of a million. So 880,000 shoes is what they can scale back to. Okay, so watch these notes as many times as you have to in order to do the next assignment. Assignment 9 is going to have a problem like the rectangular prism, and it's going to have word problems like this one. Okay, but remember, you won't have to use quadratic formula on them because you can factor. All right, as usual, any questions, message me. Ask me what you need to. Good luck.